Hey everyone, I'm Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist at Adobe. On a basic level, Components allows you to save commonly used elements, like buttons and icons, within your Assets panel, so you can quickly grab one when needed. But their functionality extends far beyond that, offering resizability, overrides, and states. Let's take a look. In this first example, I have a simple button which I'll likely use on various screens. With the element selected, I can create a component by pressing the plus button within the Properties Inspector or the Command-Control-K shortcut. This will pop it straight into the Assets panel, where I can rearrange and rename if necessary. The diamond at the top left lets us know that this is the base component. Any changes made to your base components will push to any instance or state where the targeted change was not overridden. You'll see this in action in a moment. Since this particular button contains an icon in addition to the text, we can enable a stack within the Properties Inspector. And based on the content within the component, XD has automatically determined that it's laid out horizontally. This will also enable padding to allow the button to expand as the text is changed. I'll make sure to set the padding on the sides to a nice 32 pixels. Now, if I need to change the label or even swap the position of the layers, it can be done with ease. At this point, if this is the only design I'll be needing, I can start adding additional buttons throughout my project, but I may also want a few variations to use depending on the situation. For that, we turn to states. Back in the Properties Inspector, you'll find a plus button beside your default state. Pressing this will allow you to create another, including hover. Let's start with that. I don't want anything too drastic for my hover effect, so I'll simply brighten up the background a touch, and then separate the two pieces that make up this icon. Great, I can now toggle back and forth between the two states, and since hover was chosen, it's automatically wired up, so when I preview the artboard, voila. Let's create one more state, this time to act as an outline version of our button. I'll turn off the fill and set the border to white. With the additional state now in place, let me pull another one out to the right, switch over to the one I want to display, and then dive in and change the label to reflect the new call to action. Of course, one of the main benefits of using components is their ability to keep your designs up to date, and with states, you can also keep your instances in sync. Editing a specific state within a base component, and again, that's the one with the solid diamond, will push the changes to all instances where those specific properties were not overridden. And if you need to update the styling across all of your states, you can make changes to the default. Again, as long as the property was not manually overridden, all states will receive the update. States can also be combined with auto-animate to create micro-interactions. Over under the user profile dropdown, which I've created an expanded state for, I may want to include a few toggles for these options. With the off design already in place, I'll make sure to convert it into a component, and then create a new state, which I'll call on. Here I'll shift the ellipse over to the right, and then change the background color to match the rest of the design. With both of the states created, I can now switch over to prototype mode to wire it up. Unlike with artboard to artboard interactions, since we can cycle between states, I'll want to simply click on the blue handle, and then make sure that tap is the selected trigger, and auto-animate is the action. I can now select the state I wish to transition to, and tweak the easing options if desired. I can also select the second state and set up an interaction back to the first. With the two states now wired up, duplicating it or dragging out a new one from the Assets panel will keep them in place, so I don't need to redo them each time I want an animated toggle. Lastly, and one of my favorite benefits of components, is their use within repeat grids. As you may know, aside from text and images, making changes to an entry within a repeat grid pushes those changes to all of them, and that's by design. But what if we utilized components? Here's an album view I've been working on. And to ensure I can override certain elements, I'm going to first convert them into components. Now, with everything selected, I'll create the repeat grid, pull out a few cards both horizontally and vertically, then quickly hop over to Finder to grab some images, and then the album names using a text file. Now, since components were used in this grid, and components can be overridden, overrideable repeat grids. And that's your look at components and states within Adobe XD, giving you much more flexibility over your designs.